Divine Source, Great Spirit, we're grateful to be called here today to bask in your love and your grace. We ask that you deliver the messages through us that are most helpful for one and for all. Speak to us and through us. We're grateful in love and gratitude, and so it is.
Welcome to Talking Spirit. My name is Jutta, and I'm back with my lovely friend Elisabeth.
Greetings, everyone.
Yeah, welcome back. In our connection before we came together today, Elisabeth dropped a little word, and that word was discernment. So that seems to be what we're landing on today. And yeah, while we were talking about it, for me, when I did my own little check-in, it kind of came through with a message of, we need a really strong spiritual foundation in order to really be able to make any discerning decisions in our lives here. And really to be able to feel and get in touch with what is called for in any given moment. And when we talk about discernment, I think today we'll probably get into some aspects that we haven't covered yet, because we talk about discernment a lot and getting in touch with the Spirit and allowing the Spirit to make decisions for us and show us what's given for us and what's, the most helpful things for us. And we're both open to receive the messages as the Spirit would have them come through today, and really excited to see where it'll take us today.
Yeah, so I received a note from Jutta asking if any topics had come through, and there were little things that had floated around, but there wasn't really anything that felt compelling. And as I was reading her note, I just heard discernment pop into my mind. And then when I asked in my morning writing about it, it was like, yeah, that's a good word. We like that word. And, I feel like I intuitively know what the word discernment means, but I looked up the word discernment, and I'm so glad that I did. And the first definition was the ability to judge well. The second definition, though, is in Christian context, perception in the absence of judgment, with a view to obtaining spiritual guidance and understanding. And when I read that first definition, the ability to judge well, I feel like, it's such a funny thing to think of in the world's terms, to judge well. I mean, how do you do that? This is the world of judgment, right and wrong. And we had a message about justice yesterday, and the idea of a judge meant to be impartial in terms of the way we think of the judicial system or justice in the world's terms. And, this world is based on a platform of separation. And so there has to be judgment, a right and a wrong, a good and a bad, in a way for it to exist. So it's kind of hysterical to think of judging well in this world. It just doesn't really compute, sort of having trouble before this talk, really lining some things up in myself. And I think because it feels like very paradoxical, but we do, and we're always talking about wanting to be in the channel and be under the authority of spiritual guidance. And when I come to thinking about judging on that level, I think, there is one that knows what's really right in any moment. And that's not me at the personality level. And so, so much of the spiritual path in the early part of it is about having the rough edges, you might say, knocked off of us so that we are willing and open-minded enough to start hearing that other way. And I think when I think about the times where I felt really squirmy in myself, really spun out, really kind of twisted up, were moments where I was really asking to be able to discern between the world's thinking and what Spirit was calling me to. So the purification process is so vital to come into true discernment. And we had an image that had shown up as some of the guidance of a crystal ball that becomes a diamond, that gets cut into a diamond. And a crystal ball has a certain element of perceived power and value. But when we become that diamond, that multifaceted, that can be the light that shines through us, that can reach every angle because it's cut in just the right way, then we really are a proper channel for the Spirit. Then we really can receive the wisdom, the know-how, the guidance that we'll know how to judge in every moment from that very, very high perspective. So that's what comes up for me at this moment.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for reading those definitions, because, I'm just seeing, like, in order to judge anything truly, right? In order to be able to really judge anything in any way, it's like we'd have to be able to see all facets of a situation and everybody that's involved, everybody that's affected, and all the thoughts that, surround it. And there's no way anybody can do that here. There's really no way to do that. And I think that's why I really like the spiritual path, because it gets me in touch with the one that can do that sees it all. It sees all the facets, all the hidden corners, all the private thoughts, all the connections, and everything, and can then from that place guide me in a way that is truly helpful for not only myself, but for anybody else that's involved. And that's a really nice place to be in my mind, because it kind of takes all the pressure off. It removes any opinion I might have about anything. And just as I was thinking about it while you were talking, I was just thinking about the simple decision around our recordings and days that we record. And Elisabeth came to me and she said, maybe we'll take Sunday off. Today's Sunday. But she hadn't really explored it. It was just a thought. She just passed it on and let me go at it. And so when I did my own check-in with the Spirit around our schedule, I actually felt, no, I think we should keep Sunday. And I asked, should we have a day off though in the coming week? Yes. Okay, great. And then I did a little more check-in and found out it was going to be Tuesday. And the awesome thing is to then receive feedback from Elisabeth around the friend that she lives with being away for 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So it's giving her a full 3 days to just, catch up on stuff and just be with herself and the Spirit. And this is why we like making decisions with the Spirit, because he can plan truly and he can judge truly what is going to be most helpful and the timing of things. And yeah, if we like with the diamond that you're talking about, if we can really tune our minds and clean away blocks and resistances and impurities in our minds together with the Spirit, then we really can be that diamond that is able to take all the light in and then reflect it back out and really shine and be truly helpful. And it's nice. It's really, really nice to be in a place where we can receive guidance very clearly, and also to get kind of the feedback loop of like, okay, I didn't need to tell you beforehand why Tuesday was better, but I'm still going to tell you now why actually it was the right decision. Not even the right decision, but it was going to be more helpful than Sunday. So I just really love that feedback loop. And I said to Elisabeth too, like, when I first got her message about Sunday, my mind is like, yeah, that's fine, right? Like, I'll go with the flow, no problem, sounds good. And when I then do my check-in, I can meld with what's actually most truly helpful. And me just being open to it is actually really helpful too. And then getting lined up with what the Spirit wants for the whole thing. It gets very exciting that way and makes things feel really lively in my mind. And it's just the way to be. There's no better way to make decisions and to move through life. And right now, with my husband, we're in this situation where we're sort of in places temporarily. Right now, we're in Portugal for a couple of months. And then, there's seemingly endless options for what's next. And if we talk about it from an intellectual standpoint of, this place would be nice, and yeah, I've always wanted to see this and that, it's like there's no way to make a decision because the options are just too overwhelming. And so I'm usually the one that really brings it back to prayer and really checking in with the Spirit just to see where are we meant to be and what's going to be most helpful, because I just can't make decisions any other way. So, yeah, it's a very practical, again, we always love going to the practical. This is as practical as it gets because it just helps you move through any situation that could otherwise cause you trouble in your mind.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love when Spirit gives us those little snippets of experience to show us that we're hearing guidance clearly, that we're following it properly. And Jutta and I now have communed with each other enough and communicated enough with each other about where our hearts are, where our minds are, that we know we can trust each other. And, there's something in this conversation for me of what a relief to not have to micromanage the people in my relationships, that I can float something that I'm feeling out and have it received without judgment, and then have it looked at. And that I don't have to be the one in that moment. I didn't have the time or energy to see what was what, right? And Jutta got the guidance and got the clarity. A couple days before that, she was like, I think I'm not really feeling to record, but it was on my end really loud, like, nope, yep, you are, right? So we don't always have to be the judge and the one that has the absolute clarity about everything. We get to have this more relaxed, collaborative, be in the flow, allow your heart and your dedication to the Spirit to guide you. And that's just a really lovely, lovely way to be. And it's very different from how I've experienced many of my relationships. And one of the reflections that came out before getting on this recording was this image of a woman, and she's got kind of a vortex over her head, and it's almost like grooves on a record that is above her, and she has different people dancing or moving and doing their thing over this vortex. And what had come into mind about it was this idea that there seemed to be all these competing forces on the world stage. And if we're not locked on to that inner guide after however long it takes to really get to a deep purification, all those competing forces can really gum up the works of how we're meant to be moving through to be in service to the Spirit. And it was also coming up, I've had these experiences where it seemed like there were massive storylines. Maybe they were lineage lines, storylines. Maybe they were past life storylines. Who knows? But it seemed like those kinds of energetics were kind of colliding all at once. And they were looking to be brought to rest. But sometimes it seems like, when there's an old wound or an old slice in the mind that's seemingly been stuck in darkness, it can seem like popping a boil. Like you got to get the pus up and out. But when you pop the boil, the pus goes flying, And I was just having that kind of energy presenting in my mind of how difficult some of those times can be, where it feels like worlds are colliding, storylines are colliding, people's agendas and perspectives and projections are colliding. This world can be very, very confusing. And the healing process at times can be very, very confusing. Until or unless we are in that state of, all I want is to hear your guidance, Spirit. As you said, we couldn't possibly know the far-reaching, very complex enormity of the healing and awakening process. I like I don't know who it was, Lao Tzu or one of those that's quoted as the parables of as an old man who lost his yak. And everybody came to him and said, I'm so sorry you lost your yak. And the old man says, maybe so, maybe so. And then he is given by a long-lost relative a big, beautiful home. Oh, I heard, says the neighbor, that you were given a big, beautiful home. How lucky you are. And the old man says, maybe so, maybe so. Like, what do I know about it, right? And then he falls and breaks his leg, and everybody rushes to him. I'm so sorry you broke your leg. Poor you. It's awful. What happened to you is awful. And once again, the refrain is maybe so. We just don't know, as you said. We don't know what's for our highest good. We might have an accident that is clearing up eons of unresolved business. It may be bringing players onto our stage to help us heal seemingly on the physical form. Our house might be blown down by a hurricane, and it turns out to be the most incredible seeming gift of grace because we meet people that we're destined to meet that are going to help us serve our purpose. There's such a massive orchestration going on. And I love those reminders that I don't have the power to figure out what's right. It's crazy making in my mind, trying to figure it out, find the right answer for all these competing forces. I don't got it. But there is one. And for me, when I get lined up with that, in the midst of a very complicated seeming situation that seems to be playing out in the world, I can be in deep rest. Maybe in the beginning, I'm confused. Maybe I'm stressed. Maybe I'm worried. Maybe I'm scared. Maybe whatever, right? But the Spirit is there going, hand it to me, Elisabeth, because you don't know your highest good in this situation. That's an amazing gift. That's an incredible gift of grace to have that realization. Maybe so. Maybe this is a problem. Maybe this is a blessing. What do I know about it, right? Really important. So.
Yeah, I love the idea, that when we talk about something like discernment and getting in touch with the guidance, it really goes against the natural inclination of the mind to do it and get it right and know it and be good at it, whatever it is, right? And be in control of it. None of that stuff really works, and it's a lot of pressure on the mind when we want to be the one that gets it right and gets it right all the time and knows what to do all the time. It's so much pressure. And I feel really grateful that I've never really been somebody who had a lot of impetus for things like that, or, I never feel like I really strived to really make anything of myself and get it right. Obviously, I've had my own personal experiences with wanting to get things right, but it's been fairly light, and just getting in tune with the fact that I don't have to do any of it is so relaxing and such a relief. I don't have to do any of it. I don't have to do it. I don't have to get it right. I don't have to know. And isn't that just amazing? That's like one of the biggest gifts, isn't it? That anybody could really take into their minds. Like all this pressure that anyone's really felt around accomplishing anything in their lives can just fall away, and we can just, land in this surrender to allowing someone else, not someone else, but something else to take the wheel of our lives and really, take the wheel of the world and the wheel of our perception and how we see things. It's so much of a nicer journey than trying to go through life, trying to figure everything out and getting it all right. Like my current living situation, it would be so difficult for me to make any decisions if I didn't have a connection to this inner teacher and this inner guidance that I can line up with and get, ideas from and get input from and get pointers from. I would probably die of anxiety because my mind would just be concerned with so much stuff, where's the money coming from? Who's paying for this? And, which flight? And where are we going? It's like, there's just way too much. So we've talked about simplicity before and streamlining before, and we end up always talking about the same thing, and it comes always back to the simple thing of, when we're joined with our inner teacher, when we're joined with the spirit, all things become as light as breathing, right? As easy as breathing. There's just all the pressure can really drop away. And I think really, like, somewhere everybody wants that. Nobody wants to go through life with pressure and, with just having this idea in your mind that you have to figure everything out. You have to figure out what you're doing with your life and why you're here and what, you're meant to be doing and where you're going and, where's it all heading, all of this big stuff. And then to, even take into account everything that's happening in the world. Like, a lot of people get very focused on politics and, what's happening with the weather and who knows what, right? Saving animals and I don't even know. Wars. There's so much happening that our minds can get bogged down with. And in the surrender to listening to and following guidance, all of that just goes away. It doesn't even come into consideration most of the time. And more so, we don't base our decisions around outside things, anything in the world. We just don't base our decisions around that. And it can seem really crazy, like certain decisions we make through our lives. It's like other people that just don't understand where we're coming from. It's like, why would you do that? And where are you getting your advice? Like, who's your advisor on this one, right? It's just sometimes doesn't make any sense. But to you, getting the guidance and following it is the most sense anything's ever made. And you kind of can just chuckle at it and just go with the flow. And sometimes those that didn't understand will understand later on and be very amazed. And sometimes we'll come back and just ask you more about it, like, wow, you did make the right decision, it seems like. How did you do that? it seemed crazy at the time. I didn't understand it. And now I want to know more. It's a really kind of fun experience.
Yeah, for some reason, I was having college, choosing a college, in the U.S., there's no government, given education for college, university. And yeah, I was just having, one, hearing you say, I don't have to do anything. I just could feel this massive part of the mind going, what is she talking about? Like, this is crazy. And, oh my God, I've had so many of those reflections. Like, you are out to lunch, sister, and it so goes against the programming of the world. And I was just seeing the modern saga, from what little I understand of it, of kids applying to colleges and university. Oh, I sent in 100 applications and, hundreds of dollars for every application, and, writing different applications and essays, and, just so complex and complicated. Not to judge anybody that feels really like that's their path, but it just, it's just so complex. And I just couldn't function with those kinds of choices. I mean, I ended up applying to one place, and I love the symbol of it. It was Temple, Temple University. I like looking back on some of these seeming random things that happened that have a really beautiful message to them. I worked for Bloomingdale's when I was going through college, and my first department was YES, YES. It stood for Young East Sider, but it was said as yes. And I liked that symbol. And I liked Bloomingdale's. I liked the idea that I was blooming in retrospect. And I also worked in a department called Bloomingdale's Now, So I like the story of my life when I look at some of those things, because those are the only things that make any sense to me. And I'm really okay. Like, this idea of discernment. I know a lot of people in my life have thought that I was nuts and very confused, and probably in their minds mentally ill. And, she's talking about hearing guidance and speaking to, the spirit. For a lot of people, there's no need in their minds to discern about what I was saying. They were completely in judgment about it. And that's all right. But how do we hear a message like somebody's communing with the spirit? Can we actually go into true experience of what's that about, spirit? Can we practically take the reflections in our lives and be in the open-mindedness of it? Be in the question of it? A lot of the things that spirit has had me do have come down to like, meditate on that. Have that be a question in your mind. Have that be a real deep meditation. What does it mean for somebody to hear guidance? So for Jutta and I, we keep coming back to, I'm listening to the best of my ability to a loving messaging system. I'm also deep in prayer and meditation of what does this really mean to the greater awakening. We have to really, really go to the spirit. What is this for?
Yeah, I just love the idea of being in the question with it all. And yeah, I feel like I rarely have answers nowadays, but I do have a lot of questions for the spirit, which is nice because it keeps me in communication, right? And keeps me connected. So yeah, I think being in the question more is a really nice way to be, and keeps the mind open to receiving the answers. So thank you, Elisabeth. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.